watched them this morning as
Welcome back to Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon I'm joined by Chris McElwain and Patrick McGilp. We are here, of course, to talk about the big one, because it absolutely is pivotal to Celtic's season. Patrick, I'm going to come to you now. We're not just here to participate and feel lucky and get through and see it as a bonus, are we? I mean, that's not being an entitled Celtic fan. This is pivotal to Celtic in so many different ways, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And, I think based on the last 3 years, especially last season, based on who our manager is, based on, the money we have in the bank, based on the size of our stadium, based on the squad, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect Celtic to at least participate in the Champions League. I think I said a week or two ago, that this should be one of our two minimums: win the league and participate in the Champions League. If we don't hit those two sort of targets, we're failing, in my opinion, based on where we are currently. So I don't think we're entitled at all. I think, depending on the luck of the draw, I think the expectation is to compete in games where it's sort of reasonable to compete. When you're coming up against the likes of Dinamo Zagreb, Bratislava, Club Brugge, maybe Leipzig at home, you expect to be competitive in these games. Fair enough, you hold your hands up. Games against Real Madrid, PSG, Bayern Munich, you've just got to sort of keep a bit of pride and self-respect. But I think the expectation is for us to compete at the level where we should be, and that means winning tomorrow and winning by a large margin. I think we've all been fairly critical of how little money we've spent this summer. The key areas of the pitch that were key areas of the squad that were missing in the forward areas of the pitch. Our forward three needs much improving over the next 11-12 days until the window shuts. But by the same measure, we should have enough in the squad to overcome Kairat Almaty. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, I should say. Could the club have brought in more reinforcements to give us a better chance? Yes. But does Brendan have enough to get through these next two games against Kairat? And the answer is also yes. So, no excuses, I don't think, from anyone at the club. We should be progressing both tonight and next Tuesday against a weak side. I mean, even on paper, I know football isn't played on paper, but on paper, we beat Slovan Bratislava 5-1, and Slovan took this lot to penalties over 2 legs. So not a better team than Slovan Bratislava. So, I'm not going to go out here and say I expect a 5-1, but we do need at least a 3-goal lead, in my opinion, going over there, because it's such a tough away trip. So, no, I don't think we're being unrealistic or entitled of any other sort of adjective. I think for a club of our size, with our squad and our bank balance, frankly, we should be progressing past this stage and being in the league phase of the Champions League.
We need to normalise that way of thinking, and that to be our ambition. Chris, when you look at the fact that Celtic obviously need to get through the qualifiers, that's the state of play when it comes to Scottish football. That's going to continue and actually get more difficult. And if this season's anything to go by, the board are saying, well, you know what? We're going to hedge our bets until we get there, and then we might spend money. Now, I watched the Brendan Rodgers press conference yesterday. I thought it was an interesting one. There were some real, I think, deep-hitting questions that, if you and I were there, these are the things that we would like to know. Some really good questions in and around guys like Inamura, etc., etc. But what Brendan Rodgers was saying yesterday is that, yes, he does think he's got enough to get through this tie.
The tie,
But there is absolutely no doubt that Celtic need to strengthen if we want to do anything at all at this level. He continually speaks about not just maintaining, but he even got to the point where if we replicate what we did last season, he'd be happy with that right now. Because, I mean, he has operated during this transfer window with one arm tied behind his back. He says something that there are certain things he cannot control, Chris. This isn't a great situation for the gaffer to be in. So when you look at the way we've been doing business, and he's used the word notorious, we are notorious for doing deals late. Why? It's almost as if we've normalised it. And then there's a lot of fans eventually get caught up in that and say, but it's all right, what are you panicking about? Well, it's no ideal. The manager doesn't think it's ideal. He didn't think it was ideal the first time he was here. And as Postecoglou didn't think it was ideal either. So these questions will be asked in the lead up to a massive game like this. This discussion point will be covered. even on the day of the game, because it isn't something we can ignore, Chris.
Yeah, I think Brendan handles his press conferences very, very well. I think he does provide a little bit of insight. He doesn't do it directly, but there's a lot of implications in what he says, and I think he does give you a bit of insight into some of the challenges he's facing. Look, I thought it was telling the fact that he made a real distinction between this tie and then further Champions League progression should we get past it. That told me that that is very much the modus operandi of the club to get into the Champions League before they decide how much they'll back the manager in the transfer window. Now,
for anyone whose Latin isn't maybe their first language, could you
their mode of operation,
explain the MO? What's going on there?
Yes. So their mode of operation. So basically the way they operate. And look, we've got previous transfer windows as a precedent for that. For me, it came across a little bit of frustration, a little bit of resignation around it as well. But ultimately, look, he's quite clear. He's the manager. He'll work with what he's got, and he'll do the best to get us the result that we need to get through. And then hopefully, it allows a little bit more freedom of spending to allow us to continue our progression from last year in the Champions League. From a supporter standpoint, it is frustrating because we also heard that Inamura is going out on loan, for example. Now, up to this point, we felt he was looking more and more likely to be the left-back cover for Kieran Tierney. Now it's very evident that's not going to be the case. So it's yet another position that we're saying, well, we need to fill that. I don't think many people are convinced of Scales in that position. It's well documented the issues we've got in the wings, for example. And, Brendan's spoken about that, needing more firepower and more creativity, etc. And we've discussed almost to death the striker issue at the moment. Our best striker is currently stuck on wing by default because we can't, we don't have cover there, and therefore we've got, with the greatest respect to the players, we've got a couple of misfiring strikers up there and one unknown. So, there are key positions that need to be filled, and as a supporter, it's frustrating to see that. But whatever team goes out there tonight, pulls on hoops, we have to get behind them. I hope the crowd get behind them. I think Patrick's 100% spot on. I think we're capable of getting a statement win tonight, and I hope we do indeed do that, because it's a banana skin. It's a banana skin, and both the club and the manager will take a hit if we don't do the business tonight.
Well, I'm going to be talking about the ramifications because I think we're in a situation actually where Brendan Rodgers will not be cast as the villain of this piece on this occasion. I think it's clear for everybody to see what's happening here. The gaffer knows what he needs, just like we know what we need. The gaffer, when Inamura came in, started talking about the fact that he was a club sign and used that language, was obviously then involved in a discussion with the PR man who said that's maybe not a good idea to use that language because it looks as though we're signing your players, Brendan. And then he changed that to one for the future. Then he wasn't selected in the Champions League squad. And I think at that point, you were saying, well, he's not on the plans. He's not on the gaffer's plans. And obviously, he was asked the question yesterday from a member of another platform, fan media question, about the future, and he said, yes, he's not up there defensively. He's not got the qualities, and a loan move looks as though that's going to be happening. So we're running with one left back. Nobody's telling me Liam Scales is the left back. I'm sorry. We're running with one left back, and then Scalesy is playing out of position if necessary. We're running with without having replaced Kyogo, even though, Patrick, we knew, and if we knew, the club knew, that Kyogo wanted to leave the football club this time last year. So it's not just since January. He left the club in January, but we've not got a replacement in for him. Jota got injured. Dundee United, wasn't it? Tannadice. He got injured playing away from home. That was several months ago. He's not been replaced. And as Chris says, we're playing Maeda, not out of position, but I think in his weaker of the two positions we've seen him deployed in. And then obviously we've got an issue on the right wing because Kuhn's not been replaced. All these things, if it does unravel, and I'm being very positive about tonight, I think we'll do the job tonight. I think we'll do enough tonight actually to get us through the tie, regardless of our away record in Kazakhstan. And if that continues next week, I think we will get through the tie. I'm very positive about that. But there's absolutely no way that this is on the head of Brendan Rodgers if it was to unravel, Patrick.
Well, I mean, as you highlight there, the deficiencies we have up top and now left back as well, they've been known about for some time. Left back, I mean, we've known we've needed a left back since I think August 2019. Never mind, last summer or last January or anything like that. You highlight there, Kyogo wanted to leave. We knew about that for 6 months. Yamada is allegedly the replacement, but in the minutes that he's got, I mean, I'm willing to give him a chance. He's certainly more deserving of a chance, in my opinion, but he's not been too involved in the sort of limited minutes he's had. Kuhn as well, we knew in January that he wanted away, and it transpired in sort of June, July, and still no wingers brought in. Jota obviously got injured the day we won the league up at Tannadice. Still, we're opting to play, I agree with you, in his weaker position, Dies and Maeda. So the front line is seriously weakened, and I did sort of wonder why, and I'm glad it was asked, why we insisted on taking Tierney off, moving Scales out left, and bringing Trusty on. Because I thought Inamuva had a pretty good pre-season, as did Austin Trusty, I thought.
Yeah.
And yet both are not in the starting 11. And the worry is that we end up doing that for an entire season. And it's all well and good saying that you've got loads of centre halves now, and you do. Whether they're good enough or not is another question, but you do have quite a lot of centre halves. But you can't do that all season. You can't be playing Scales as one of your two starting centre halves for 60 minutes and then using them as your backup for the next 30 minutes to see out the game. It's ridiculous. So it's like what Brendan said, I think, before the first game of the season against St Mirren. It's a numbers thing, it's pure arithmetic. We do not have enough players in certain positions. 4 positions, left back in the front 3. So I mean, I agree with Brendan, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, that we do have enough to get through the tie. So I think there are definitely questions for the manager and the players if we don't get through over 180 minutes, 210 minutes, penalties, whatever it takes. But we certainly could have been stronger. I think that's without doubt, because we've brought in, I think, over 20 million now that Doak has went to Bournemouth, and we're allegedly getting a small fee for that. Kuhn, Frimpong, and I think we spent just over 3 million. So it's disappointing. And the links with Jamie Vardy on Monday night, again, you can only interpret what you see from the outside. I don't know what's going on in house. None of us know, but we can only see what's reported in the press, and it's the same as Kasper Schmeichel, where for 5 months we've known that we've needed a player. The scouting isn't good enough. We've not been able to identify or get someone over the line. So we're going to the Rolodex. I think that became everyone's go-to word on Monday night, Rolodex, even though we've all got mobile phones. But I mean, it's totally similar to Kasper Schmeichel. Leicester, Brendan Rodgers link, older player. Celtic can't get the job done with their own recruitment. So that might not be the case, but that's how it looks to the outside world, and no one can have any arguments with that. So it has looked amateurish in parts up until now. But we did discuss last week, if we can get 3 or 4 goal lead from tonight's game, not to jinx anything, but you stand a good chance of qualifying. You've got sort of 1 foot in the league phase. Maybe that will allow, I don't know what's holding it up. We don't know what's holding up certain deals. Maybe it will convince the board to open the purse strings, loosen the purse strings a bit, or players who are waiting for us to become a Champions League club before they sign on the dotted line. It will give them more confidence, and we can start getting players in on Thursday, Friday, over the weekend. You never know. So it's all about taking a commanding lead tonight, I think, and I think we're more than capable. Obviously, anything can happen in football, but I look back to that Astana game, 8 years ago now, and the 5-0 win. I think we're more than capable of scoring 3, 4, 5 goals tonight.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, we'll talk about the Vardy thing. We dedicated yesterday's tagline to Jamie Vardy. I just stapled my opinion right to the mast on that one. Don't think we should be in that position, Patrick. It's nothing against Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy was a tremendous striker in his day, 200 goals for Leicester in 500 games, England international, won the league. Brendan knows him, he trusts him. You think to yourself, well, Brendan knows him that well. He knows that Vardy can play the system that he wants to play, so I can see the positives. But we shouldn't be in that position. We absolutely shouldn't be in that position. This is on the back of the Fitzgarden saga, and it was a saga where we just can't get the deal done. By the way, I think in relation to tonight's game, we know that there was a game last night in Glasgow as well, getting played, and the analysis is coming in from Stevie Boy right now. There it is, and it continues. Thank you very much. That's all we had to know about last night. I was more interested actually in the fact that Bruges have done what we've been banging on about when it comes to, ratcheting it up a level and looking at, right, where we are, this is what you buy, this is what you get for them. How do you progress? You go up to the next stage in that process, and that next stage is a wee bit more expensive. So you can have a tighter squad. I mean, people keep saying to me, mainly fans of other clubs, actually, you signed 8 players, right? Let's have a look at them, though. Kieran Tierney, straight into the team, absolutely. Ross Doohan, third choice goalie, hasn't kicked or saved the ball. Benjamin Nygren, not sure how that move happened, but that was a great bit of business. It looks like it anyway. Callum Osman's never kicked a senior football. He's never kicked a ball, and probably will end up out on loan. He's played for the B team this season. Inamura, obviously, we've already covered him. Shin Yamada, I'm sorry, he's not a Kyogo replacement. He's just another one for the future, even though he's 25. He's only played 130 games of football at the age of 25. And obviously we've got Simpson Pusey, who we've not seen yet, but he's on loan with no option to buy. So that isn't the transfer window of a club trying to progress in Europe, Chris.
No, I mean, I think what the game last night did highlight is when you get to this level, there are no easy games, nothing's a given. And I'm not going to I appreciate the banter, but I'm not going to lord it over our rivals too much because we've got a potentially tricky tie to navigate ourselves tonight. But you're right.
Just leave it to Stevie Boy. Stevie Boy will do all the lording for us. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. They're doing it well as well, I have to say. But look, the model you're talking about, I think, is important. There are lots of precedents around European football of clubs who I think have more self-awareness of their club as a business, as a brand, and as a football operation. A lot of successful clubs used to model themselves on the Ajax of old, for example, in terms of youth development, bringing through, players for the academy and farming them out, and eventually, you had players going to AC Milan from Ajax and winning European Cups and going to Juventus, the Edgar Davids and Seedorfs and all these kind of guys. So that it's a tried and tested model. You look at the best examples around European football. You look at profile equivalence, for example, when you look at clubs that have, similar sort of assets, playing a similar sort of standard of league, but you look at their operating model and you say, well, what do they do well? What can we model ourselves on or leverage? And actually, in some cases, when you look at the profile of our club, we're huger in many, we're much larger in many aspects. And you just think you need someone with a vision to tap into that and look at the football operation and look at it alongside the business operation, which does some things well, but I don't think does it as well as it could be done, personally. I don't think we tap into anywhere near the kind of revenue streams or marketing or global reach that we should. But from a football operation, we should be absolutely leading the way for Scottish football. We've got the resources to do it. It shouldn't be, with the greatest respect to Motherwells, that are producing the Lennon Millers, who are then going out to the continent and probably going to go on and have a fantastic career and great for Scottish football. But Celtic should be doing that. Celtic should be the team that's leading the way on that. And similarly, we seem to have this model where we buy cheap and we sell for big. Well, that's good. It's great when it works. But you said it yourself. We're buying quantity over quality just now, and we need quality for the first team. We need quality for the here and now on our, on that football field for the first 11 and then the X amount of subs. We need quality, and at the moment, when you compare us to last season, we have less quality in that side and in that squad, and that is really alarming. So yeah, I think we are too insular. I think there's too much looking inward and patting on the back when we should be looking at what other clubs do well, recognising how we can tap into that same sort of model, but then putting our own spin on it, our own slant on it, and using the resources, using the profile, using the brand, using all these things that we've got at our disposal, including the hunters of money, as to coin Patrick's phrase, build something for the long term.
If somebody's doing it well, Chris, just go and employ them. That's what other big businesses do.
Absolutely.
Go and
get people
them
in for the jobs. Yeah,
no connection whatsoever to the club, no connection whatsoever to anybody in the club. Doesn't have to be your son, doesn't have to be any of these people. Bring them in.
100%.
Lock, stock, And then
Well, we
you go,
do.
you've got a bigger budget, and then they can still have the same basis of their plan and their strategy, but they do it on a bigger scale. That's doable.
Well, that's
And
what
that's what we
successful
should do.
football. That's what successful football clubs do on the park. They bring in players that are best in the position. It doesn't matter if they've got any affiliation at the club. They bring them in. Why don't we do that in the back? You know, the back room and the board and the various operational roles within the football club. You go out there, you scout the best talent, the most equipped to do the job and do the job well, and you bring them in.
Because you use the word insular. That's what you use. You're right, and we very much are that. And there is a culture, and it's almost an us and name culture. And we know that, leading up to a game like tonight, we shouldn't be talking about club versus fans, but there has been a lot of that chat because of obviously the statement from the club last night in response to the Green Brigade, which is talking about the migration of fans. There's certain fans who've been walking about the same routine for 20 years, meeting people in concourses, etc., etc. It's all coming to a stop. And then obviously the communication aspect of it, etc. Yeah, we will be getting to the starting 11 tonight. I'm feeling good about the game, despite all of these things, in spite of the decision makers at Celtic. And I'm going to actually throw in a wee bit of positivity to kickstart this show. It's Ryan someone, reliable Belgian journalist Sasha Tavolieri, just posted saying we've agreed terms. You're impressed with my Belgian? With Antwerp for Balikwisha, and a medical was scheduled, but there are complications on the player side. So what I've done, just as we were chatting there, I've got the screen up. I'm going to have a wee look at this. It's obviously, it's been posted on Twitter. Let's share this and we'll have a wee look at it, shall we, gentlemen? There we go. So that we can see what's happening, we'll remove the comment for now. Thank you very much for that. Don't know what your eyesight's like. If it's anything like me, you might want to enlarge that. Michel Ange Balikwisha's situation at Celtic FC is complicated, says Sasha. I'll stick with that. The Scottish club has reached a principal agreement with Royal Antwerp for the Belgian's departure. So deal done between the club and Celtic. And a medical has even been scheduled. But internal issues related to the player's situation are still preventing the finalisation of the deal. Internal issues, that will be internally. I read that as internal issues at Royal Antwerp. Patrick, do you read it that way?
I hope so, and I hope it's not internal as in injuries or, sort of physical internal issues. That would be a concern. It would obviously put the deal in jeopardy, and then it would put his time at Celtic in jeopardy if he's, injury prone. So yeah, hopefully that is Royal Antwerp's issues. I'm not aware of any issues that they've got. Obviously, clubs like Sheffield Wednesday or whatever, they have certain financial issues at certain times. But it is. It would be a key signing. I think he is a right winger. I would say he mainly plays on the right, so that would obviously, in terms of numbers anyway, you'd fill the sort of Kuhn void. It would also allow Forrest to go into the left, which isn't his natural position, but we're playing a numbers game here really, so you need backup for that left wing position because at present we don't have any. So another body in the door would be beneficial, obviously, and he's one that's feels as if he's been linked for for a long time. I don't know if it was January he was first linked, but certainly all summer long, he's been a name that sort of popped up again and again. And yeah, just on the Belgian model as well. I think I've seen a few stats, and I think it was the commentator last night just highlighting a few sort of points that they've brought in 70 million in one summer. I think they've sold 4 or 5 players. They've brought in 4 or 5 players. They've made a net profit of tens of millions. He pointed out, I think John Champion it was, 7 of the last 8 seasons they've been in the Champions League. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it'll be 8 out of 9. Call me ambitious, based on the first leg, but that is a level that Celtic can aspire to be at, and maybe the Belgian league is slightly stronger than the Scottish league, but I don't think that's out of our grasp. I mean, John's spoken about it for months, if not years, that it's all well and good signing a player for 3 million and selling them for 15, but why not sign a player for 10 and sell them for 40? You're still making
Move
a
up the
large
scale.
profit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And fair enough, I think we do need to be in the Champions League every year to do that. But if you're doing it successfully, Champions League qualification should be straightforward. And that money trickles down as well. If we're in the Champions League, you've seen Hibs get a good result in Europe. You've seen Dundee United be, really unlucky not to get through to the next tie. So I like to think Scotland's on the way up this season in terms of coefficient. So it should be an ambition of ours. We don't seem to have that ambition this summer. Who knows what the last 10, 15 days will bring of the window? Maybe we're going to go out and spend 40 million quid. In the last week, who knows? But you've got to be better prepared, especially with more qualifiers in the future, especially due to the fact we're going to have a tougher group stage draw should we qualify than last season. Last season we get, I think on paper the luckiest draw we probably could have got out of any team. But before that, obviously we need to be wary of banana skins. Diddy teams can cause upsets. Last night I think you seen. Bruges were leading, and then the Diddy team that they were playing against got a goal early in the second half, and it could have resulted in a comeback. So you've got to be switched on at all times. I thought they switched off. So you've just got to be focused, and it really is all about accumulating goals. I mean, I think back to Cavagandi, we done it successfully. Oh God, I can't remember the first name. It was a Bratislava team in 2005, wasn't it? I've not made that up.
Slovan. No, Art Media.
Art Media.
Art Media. And then like Love Street 1986, different circumstances, but same sort of goal. You just need to score a lot of goals, and that's the job tonight. And just to go back actually to that Club Bruges point, I know I was sort of making a wee joke there, but that is my ultimate ambition for Celtic, really, to just be in the Champions League, competing every season. And then if you end up dropping down to the Europa League, you can make a real fist of it. You can make a real attempt at winning the competition, which would just be dreamland for any Celtic fan to sort of relive the Seville season, getting all the way to a final and even going one better and winning a European trophy. I mean, you've seen West Ham do it, for crying out loud, in the Conference League. I think teams like Feyenoord and all that have made the final. It's well within our grasp, but it's one of the two minimums this season to get by this Kairat Almaty. And we've obviously got a fantastic opportunity in the league, the way that other teams have started to build up a real advantage there as well. So despite the poor window so far, we have made a decent enough start, and we've just got to keep on meeting these minimums every single year in order to progress as a football club. As you have both said, there's no reason why we can't be at the level of Club Bruges. We can't be, maybe not in terms of transfer fees or wages, but competing, in the scouting department and the youth department, and the media department commercially. Why we can't compete with Premier League teams, top European sides. We need to be dominating where we can dominate in these other aspects. As you say, just go out and hire the best people. You might not be able to do it with the players in the park. You can kind of do it with a manager. You can kind of get Premier League quality with a manager, but in all these other areas, we can be better, and hopefully with continual Champions League qualification, we will be in the future.
That's the knock-on. Absolutely, Patrick, that you should be able to capitalise on it. You get the knock-on effect of the money coming in, and you should be able to improve these things that Brendan touched on yesterday. He spoke about infrastructure. He spoke about the academy. You should be able to do that. You actually, Celtic are in a position to do it right now. So you get the added, I mean, you imagine Celtic getting 9 out of 10 group stage Champions Leagues. That is astonishing. And I don't know if there's a bit of a worry in the boardroom at the moment that it would mean that there was no challenge domestically. I'll tell you, if you're competing at that level and that becomes normalised, you're buying your season ticket. You want to be part of it. It's not as though we spoke to Peter. It's not Peter Grant. His namesake Tom Grant, just a couple of months back there about it, and he says, that there's a moment where you've got to keep the demand, so there's a sweet spot. And I still think if you've got the Champions League, no matter how far ahead you are of the competition at home, the Champions League will ensure that the attention will always be there. I asked Franny McKeown for his favourite quote out of Ibrox last night, and he says, this is it here. And I heard a few of them. A friend of mine, who will remain nameless, who's not a Rangers fan, lives right across the Ibrox. I've shown you the view from his front window. Yep. Honestly, it is vomit-inducing, right? And what happened last night is he's sending me videos 20 minutes in, everybody leaving the ground. IH Decorating, you're still sunning it up in Greece. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying yourself in Greece. Found a great bar that's showing the game, though. And Parry Lavery wonders if Vardy will be at the game. Oh, he was asked about Vardy yesterday, wasn't he, Brendan Rodgers? And he gave it the old stock answer. I wouldn't tell you either way.
Very ambiguous, yeah.
I just think it's a sad indictment on the recruitment, and it doesn't fill me with any kind of confidence that if we've gone through all the data, because there's obviously data-driven recruitment, so you can identify players without having seen them. They then have a short list of players, and then you send your scouting team out to have a look at them. And the final decision, of course, should always be with the manager, who I think if you're spending money wants to speak to them to make sure they've got the personality within the dressing room. So all that kind of stuff, Brendan knows all that. So I get it. I absolutely get it. I just don't think that's where we should be as a football club. You mentioned earlier as well, Patrick, the money keeps rolling in. It's like we've got royalties on all these player sales. Matt O'Reilly is potentially going to Italy and we'll get a cut of that. We've got Jeremy Frimpong. We've got Ben Gannon-Doak now. That's his new name, or the name that he's going to be known by. And I think that, brilliant. We're good at that. We're absolutely good at that. But, we can't always be shopping in the whoops area. This is the thing. We need to up the tempo. And I think Club Brugge are a decent template, of which there are many. Alan, when we were talking about it this morning, pointed out that they've got the B side, the reserve side, if you like. They've got that nailed as well, because not only are Club Next, I think they're called, in the Belgian pyramid, they're in the second tier. They can't be promoted beyond that. But that's where Arnie Engels learned his Spurs. That's where Arnie Engels got his move to Augsburg for, I think, 300 grand before he comes to Celtic. So there's a lot of things holding us back, and I get it, from the Scottish game. But before we actually get into the team lineup tonight, I want to just talk again about the importance of this, Chris. So I think it's a two-pronged thing, the Champions League. You've got the prestige. You've got fans like you and me who just love the fact that you're at the top table. You go and you see these great teams playing at Celtic Park. The atmosphere is different on a European night. Patrick's been to many. And the anticipation of these games, everything surrounding it. It's one of these things that people talk about when they've played at Celtic Park. The top players going about European night at Celtic Park. It's like we pride ourselves on it. So you've got the prestige and you're feeding into the illustrious European history that Celtic does have. And I don't just mean modern history, going right back into the 1960s, the golden era. So there's that side of it. But then there's the kind of cold, hard business side of it, Chris, right? And it's not just about the bounty of getting that cash at the end of the campaign. What it's about is if you're performing there and it becomes normalised that you're performing at that level, you can attract better players. You can attract the better players, even if there's that wee bit at the beginning where, we've got to get through a qualifier, a couple of qualifiers, it could get to that stage. If you're doing it season in, season out, that becomes less of a concern for the player that you're approaching. But also the performance of your team at that level improves and enhances the value of your players. So the board are obviously very risk averse, Chris. They want to bring in cheap, sell high and all this stuff. Great if you can do it. But also the players you've got on that park are improving in terms of their value. You've then got the knock-on effect of the full houses at Celtic Park. Then, going back to what Brennan said, that can all filter in to all these other areas of the club that aren't being run as a world-class operation. Did you see Brendan getting asked about that yesterday as well?
Yes,
I don't know about world-class, he says. So when it comes down to it, Chris, it's not just about the prestige. It's not just about the money. It's about everything that Champions League football brings to the football club.
Yeah, I mean, the old saying, you need to speculate to accumulate. And I think it absolutely applies. You need people within the club who have that ability to speculate or forecast potentially what all the benefits that come from making an outlay on the football side, because it brings in benefit in all different parts of the operation, from the revenue, the prestige, the reputation, the ability to recruit. There was something that struck me during the Champions League campaign last season. And whether you like them or loathe them, and I know opinions vary, but you had football luminaries like Gary Lineker, Alan Shearer, Mickey Richards, you had the guys on the overlap, and whether you like them or not, they're high-profile figures in the world of football at the moment, and they've got quite a wide reach and a lot of exposure. And they were gushing about Celtic at times last season. Suddenly Celtic was on the, was being spoken about in the same way as the Real Madrids and the Inter Milans. And no, we're not on their level at a European, from a European progression element. But, their performances in individual matches, were being spoken about with the same sort of focus and the same level of exposure. And that's fantastic for the club. That's what you want. You want us to be spoken about. Okay, you have to navigate the rough with the smooth. We took a couple of hammer-ins and, we're criticised for that. But we had some absolutely tremendous results. And it was almost like we gained some supporters within the mainstream media channels around, as we, narrowly went out to Bayern Munich. And I thought that was fantastic. That in itself is an indication of progression. You're becoming a profile club in the Champions League, and that's where you want to be. But you're right, you look at recruitment as well. Players will look at that and say, God, look at the atmosphere of that game. Look at the amount of people were talking about that match against Bayern Munich and Celtic. And, look at the way the fans respond to the players. And that's what you want. You want players to look at that and think, I want a bit of that, right? And you can sort of circumvent the maybe lack of comparative financial power that we've got to pay big wages like the Premiership teams. But if you're a young, ambitious player, you want to be on the biggest stage in domestic football, Celtic's a great option. It's a fantastic option because there's a high likelihood if you come in and play well, and the club has you're surrounded by decent players, you're going to be, pretty much winning domestically. So you're going to get that entry into the Champions League. But it does take the support of the decision makers within the club. They have to see the benefit of the football side. And the reason why it's so important to invest in the football side, because ultimately, in the long term, it will bring a lot more than sustainability. It will bring growth. And that's the frustration when you look in. It seems like they get to a point and say, that's enough for us. We don't need to do any more. That's enough. Whereas as supporters, we want to say, no, break through that barrier. Go to the next level. And we're not saying, if we've got 100 million in the bank, don't go and spend 100 million on the football operation. But if you're generating, on average, let's say, 40 million or something, don't spend 100% of it, but allocate 65 or 70% of it to the footballing operation year on year, and you get that incremental progress that Patrick's spoken about. Not every signing will be successful, that happens, but you're increasing your chances of upping the quality within the team year on year. And therefore, it does become a sustainable model. Champions League entry every year, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, revenue streams going up, up, up. You become an established team in the Champions League. You're bringing in better players. Eventually, you might get to the knockout round. You might get to the next round. And you're just building and building the profile. Whereas the current model seems to lead to stagnation, and you can't stagnate when European football is continually moving.
And it's the only way that Celtic can make that kind of cash.
Yes,
European football.
There's no other method at the moment. That's it.
No, there's no other income stream that Scottish football is going to provide you. Sligo boy, do you think there's going to be 30,000 tonight? Well, there was more than that against Falkirk for the Cup. So absolutely, I don't know if it's going to be a complete sellout, but I think it will be near to a sellout, Sligo boy, I'm pretty sure. Obviously, it was being advertised yesterday, so there are some seats available, but not many. Thomas McLaughlin, I'm not sure if you're referring to anybody in the chat or this panel, but in my 47 years on this planet, I have never wanted Celtic to lose any game of football, even the Tennant 60s. I think you need to get away, Thomas, and we won it 1 year. I think you need to get away from thinking that when you're criticising aspects of the football club, that it's negative. The club have got many, many aspects which we get right, and there's quite a lot that we get wrong. And on this channel, we have always spoken about the latter, and we will continue to do so. But the answer is, and I'm going to take the liberty of saying I'm speaking for everybody on the screen here, we never want Celtic to lose a game of football. Dunhallow LP, and you come, PJD, any sell-on cash from Ben Doak? Yes, we feel that we've heard that there's a 7-figure sum.
I thought that was one of the aspects of the deal, that there wasn't a sell-on clause.
Sell-on for young Doak, rumoured to be in the region of £1 million plus. So there you go. Kevin Graham, CCC. Kevin Graham, CCC did us proud. If you've never seen Kevin dancing, then Sunday night, Bad was a place to be. He was dancing on the stage. He had the earphones on. He was doing the whole DJ thing. he's a man of many talents, and he's in a good mood today because he was hungover on Monday. Can you remember phoning me on the way home, Kevin, on Sunday night? I don't know, but you were on loudspeaker. There we go, because that's how I roll. Brian Harkin, apparently Celtic have agreed a fee for Royal Antwerp, Michel Ange Balikwisha, the return of Ange. How many clickbait sites are going to be using that for a headline? Not us. And Michael, when discussing tonight's game, 1 minute the panel expecting a comfortable win, then the next contradicting himself, saying no easy ties at this level, tricky tie tonight, make up your minds. Michael, tonight's game I feel will be comfortable. However, we don't travel to Kazakhstan all that well. I'm going to run through these games. Back in 2013, Shakhtar Karaganda beat us 2-0. 2016, Astana and Celtic drew 1 each. And then 2017, a game that Brendan spoke about yesterday, Astana actually beat us 4-3 and Celtic ended up going through 8-4 on aggregate. It was squeaky bum time in that second half when they got 3 quick goals to go 4-1 up. So no, I think the tie is going to be tricky, but tonight's game, Michael, I expect to be comfortable. So over the 2 games, I think it is going to be a tricky one, particularly with the travel, etc. Tonight's the night, says Tony 1888, that Ida becomes a Celtic player. Right. We're going to be talking about our starting 11 now. I actually think Ida has already proven himself in his loan spell as being worthy of the move to Celtic, Patrick. And I think last season he did well enough to be this season's first choice striker, although I don't think he's the best striker at the club because that's Dyson Maeda. But because we don't have any other left wingers, for me, Adam Ida starts tonight. What's your take on that?
I think it's probably what's going to happen. I think you're right. I think he will start. And I on balance, it probably is the right choice based on what we have available. Shin, I don't think has done enough to start in such a crucial game. Kenny, I know he played at the weekend, but he's obviously not first choice. And as you say, Osmond hasn't played any first team football for us yet. So it's got to be Adam Ida. And to go back to that comment and what you said there, I think we all know Adam Ida can perform in big moments. And, tonight's the night he becomes a Celtic player. Well, he's had a lot of big moments and you think, right, this is the bit where he's going to kick on. And that's where it's stalled. He's very good at creating a big moment for himself. It's the consistency afterwards that he seems to lack, which is a shame. And, I can't quite put my finger on why that is, because he's obviously got quality, no doubt about it. But it's big moments, he's a star, but week to week, he fails to sort of meet the level required to be that outstanding first choice striker for Celtic. So for me, I think he does start. And I think, to be fair, as much as the front three is, below what we expect it to be and below what we need it to be a Champions League team, it does pick itself at this moment. I think it is Maeda, Ida and Forrest. The rest of the team, I think he's probably going to pick Scales at centre half. You could make a case for Trusty or even Dane Murray at this stage. Midfield, you could make a case for Engels, Bernardo and McCowan, but it probably is going to be McGregor, Hatate and Nygren. So I think the team, to an extent, does pick itself at the moment, as weak as it might be in some areas. So that's and then obviously, Schmeichel, Johnston, Tierney to sort of complement that, Carter Vickers. So I think it does pick itself. But, I think Ida, it's the obvious choice up front. I think it's probably the only choice that we have up front. So I think he's definitely going to start. And I think, barring, 1 or 2 surprises, I think the team does pick itself.
I'm going to throw in a slightly different take on the starting 11. Not much of a difference, but a slightly different take. But I'll do that once I've heard Chris's starting 11. David Gall, though, is saying that Yogi is pure box office. You might be wondering where Yogi is. Yogi's on his way to Celtic Park. He's on his way to Paradise. He's going to be at the game tonight. So, Paddy, you might well expect a Yogi rant today. And he might be doing it on a plane somewhere. I don't know if he's on a boat or if he's on a plane, but he might be ranting. Who knows? Let's hope he's not ranting tonight after the game. And if you're tuning in, John, we always miss you, big fella. Tony 1888, the silence from the Celtic hierarchy is deafening. Yes, the only spokesperson at the football club's Brendan Rodgers. But we've put him in that position as well. And this is the other thing, Chris, before I get your starting 11, and then I'll disagree with it. Brendan Rodgers, we've got to remember, Brendan Rodgers is in that period of his second spell where we should be talking to him about extending his stay. You think about what he's done since he's come back. I do think that Brendan, being a very competitive manager who wants the best at all times, will want to win a treble in his second tenure. I think that will be an ambition of his. I don't see why it wouldn't be. He'll be wanting to do what he did last year in Europe, all these kind of things. But beyond that, what is going to I think sways the decision will be the way that we operate in the transfer windows. And I don't think he'll be all that impressed by the way that we have conducted ourselves since he came back, particularly when there were promises made. He spoke about the conversations that he had prior to coming back to the club, Chris. So that's another big reason why we should be doing the business as well, so that he can retain the guy who at this moment in time, I don't think we could better Brendan Rodgers. So it's all about me. And it's not about just giving him a blank checkbook and saying, do your damnedest. It's about keeping him happy, keeping him satisfied in his role, because we know that he has reacted previously when he's not been satisfied. So we need to consider that as well. But yeah, the silence from the Celtic hierarchy is deafening. It will never be deafening from Celtic State of Mind. We will always speak our minds. We'll try and be as balanced as possible. Yesterday, when we put out the Vardy episode, I knew people would disagree, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Let's disagree and let's talk about it. I can see why people think that he would do a job, etc., and that's no problem at all. I just disagree, and I think it shows a wider issue. So I'm going to ask you now, Chris, for your team. You've heard Patrick's team. Is there any changes you would make to Patrick's starting 11?
So I agree with Patrick largely. I think that the team does, and you look at the way Brendan Rodgers normally sets up. I think there's a very obvious, choice of lineup you could go with. But I think, because Brendan is a very consistent manager. So I think, we'll see KT, AJ. I think we'll see probably he will partner Scales and Carter Vickers. And he'll certainly, I think the anticipation will be if Tierney has to go off, that Scales will move out and he's got Trusty to bring on. I don't necessarily think he'll do this, but I would like to see him experiment a little bit with the midfield. Arne Engels' performance against Falkirk gave me hope that he has got the capability to turn a lot of his detractors around this season. I thought his energy levels, his aggression, and his ability to impact the play was great against Falkirk, but I want to see him do it on a consistent basis. So I would, tonight, if I had the choice, I would play Hatate, Engels, and Kalmack in midfield, and I'd move Nygren out to the right, because I think he's got that guile to do a bit of damage tonight. I think it's the right opposition to do it against. I still think you go with Maeda on the left, and I think you play Ida up front, because you want him to get goals, you want him to get confidence, and you want him to have a good chance of building a consistent run up front. So that would be the only difference I would make, is I would utilise Nygren on the wing tonight and allow Engels to come in again, try and maintain that momentum that he built up against Falkirk.
Right, so that's what I would do with the right wing situation. I think James Forrest would be a tremendous asset on the bench. I honestly do. I just think there was a moment against Falkirk where Ben Nygren was moved out. Right. By the way, I think he's been brilliant in midfield. I really do. I think he's done really, really well. Yep. Even when he was being criticised to a degree after the St Mirren game, I stood up for him, because when I watched the game back, I don't think he did a great deal. He wasn't as involved as he had been in the pre-season games, but I don't think he put too many balls, awry. There was a couple of passes that went astray. So I'm a big fan of Nygren, but simply going back to what Patrick said earlier, the numbers game, I would keep Forrest on the bench. I would keep him for impact if necessary. Yep. Nygren, I don't know if Nygren is knackered or he's just one of the guys that always looks knackered, because he does. He's peak level Stan Petrov sweating, 60 minutes into every game. But, give him his 60, 65. I'm sure he'll do the damage. I'm sure he'll come inside quite a bit as well. He seems to like to pull the defenders in that way. And, I think that he's got a tremendous ability from outside the box that we've not seen a great deal of as well. So I'm going to stick with that as well. And I also think, not to reward Engels for a decent performance against Falkirk, I still believe in Engels. I don't think that I'm ready to throw him on the scrap heap just yet. Aggression is what we need from him. I think we need a bit of aggression from Arne Engels. He's got all the physical attributes. He just needs to add a wee bit of bite. Rio will bring the creativity to that operation, and Callum will run the show. And then on the left-hand side, Maeda. Ida still gets the nod from me. There's a comment coming through, which I will be bringing up as well. And I think that with regards to Idah, he's going to have to work very, very hard to change the minds of many of the people who have written him off. So I'm going to bring in one of the comments here about the man, Idah. Yeah, why should Idah start? He says, love it, when he has done zilch so far this season. I don't think he's been great this season. I wasn't impressed with him in the pre-season. It didn't look sharp to me. St Mirren, he hits the post. If that goes in, he's that type of confidence player, like Patrick says. He proves he's a player, then it goes on a wee run where he's not so great. I think the reason that we play him is because we know what he can do. Love it. But there's enough of a sample size to say Adam Idah can produce, and he can produce at this level. He had a very good Champions League campaign last season. And yeah, that's the reason why. It's not as though he's not proven himself. Yamada's not proven himself to us. Kenny, on the bet, I'm on the fence with Kenny. I think if we do bring in another striker, Kenny goes out on loan, even though he's signed a new deal. But Idah has proven it, and he's proven it at this level. Yeah, I agree. He's done so far this season of note, but I think tonight's the night. Joseph,
sorry, Paul John, can I make a point on that? Just something else to consider. I think tonight's a good game for Adam Idah to come in because, again, with the due respect to the opposition, but these are the kind of games you'd expect someone of Idah's quality to come in and score and make an impact. The danger is if Idah comes in tonight and doesn't make an impact, I think it'll be damn nigh impossible for people to get him to get back on his side. So I think he's got a real challenge on his face. So there is a double-edged sword in playing Idah tonight. And I know that's a wee bit of a negative point. I really hope he does come on and make an impact. But if he can't do it against this level of opposition, I think that might write him off in the eyes of a lot of fans. Just my opinion.
But that's something I think at this level that you've got to thrive on. Chris, that level of pressure.
That will make or break a player.
You've got to thrive on it. You really do. By the way, I'm scrolling through here. You might be wondering why my eyes are diverted to the right-hand side of the screen. I'm trying to find the post from Danielle Farley, which everybody is responding to, and I've not seen it yet. Have you got it there, Chris?
I saw it now. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I believe Danielle might be welcoming a new member of the family, and if so, massive congratulations. She's a long time contributor on here. She's been on for ages. Always makes good points as well, I should say. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've not seen you for a few shows, Daniel. So thank you very much for tuning in and letting us know the great news. Thanks, guys. All like my wee Celtic family in here had to tell you. And by the way, there is definitely, and some people might think this is lip service, there is definitely a community aspect to a Celtic State of Mind. I know that there are a lot of other platforms who have used the same template that obviously we use on the live stream, but the community aspect of it, all you need to do is look at the DMs and the emails and the people that come up on the live events as well and speak to you and tell you how much they love the show, and it's become a staple part of their afternoon. So thanks every single person. It means the world to us. Stephen Ray agrees with Chris and I. I expect Forrest to start on the bench with Nygren playing right wing and Engels back in the middle. I absolutely expect that tonight. There was just something when Nygren went out right. I think Brendan wanted to have a look at him out there the other night. But it does take us back to the defensive area as well. So Patrick, you're starting with Scales tonight. I think he will. I actually think that Brendan Rodgers will start with Scales. But I think there's also an argument. And if I give you my starting 11, Trusty's in it. And the reason that Trusty's in it, again, going back to what I said about Idah, Trusty's played his best football for us in the Champions League, in my opinion. And I think he does perform better when we're on the back foot. I don't expect us to particularly be on the back foot tonight. But it's also about giving players confidence. And if he starts the game this evening, I think it's a big boost for him. Scalesy, he's already spoken about the fact that, he can switch off and shut out the noise. He played his 100th game for Celtic against Falkirk, and it just kind of went under the radar. He's another one, I think, that he's going to work very, very hard to turn around the detractors. People have made their mind up about Scales or Idah. And I don't think it would be damaging to Scales to play Trusty tonight. So that might be another interesting factor. The rest of the defence, like you said, Patrick, picks itself. Scott McGill, welcome back in. You're on the YouTube. Ida is good at hold-up play, but his finishing has been poor. He needs to get a goal tonight if he starts to boost his confidence. Would love to see it, Scott. Listen, we had a winner of the black away jersey that was on the mannequin, and I was showing you a picture of the jersey it was styled on, and obviously the two jerseys were used in the promotional video, which I thought was tremendous, and it was this one. And I was hoping to do something similar with the coleslaw jersey, as Quinny calls it. But I don't know what it's based on, Patrick. Have you any idea what this thing's based on so we can give it away? Will anybody actually enter the competition if we're to give this away? Come on, let us know in the comment section. I'm dying to give this one away, not because I don't like it, because I want to give something back, right? I want to give something back. Come on, let's come up with a competition. How do we do this? Because the last one was you like the video, you subscribe to the channel, and you tell us a player that reminds you of the original jersey, which I just flashed up on the screen. What do we do with this thing? Patrick, I'm coming to you first. He doesn't know.
Just in order to run the competition, I think you've got to go with. I mean, it is green and white hoops. I suppose it's in my opinion, a pretty honking shade of green, and the hoops are really thin, and it looks like a bolt of electricity as opposed to like a sort of thick dark green, not dark green, but sort of emerald green hoop that we're used to. So you could, for the sake of the competition, purely, you could go with, which player does this remind you of that was like a terrible jersey or a terrible player in the hoops, or something along
that's
that
interesting.
line,
I like that.
know?
I like where that's going. Right. It was the anniversary of issue number 1 of Not the View this week, right? And they used to run a series on the back of the fanzine, and it was They Embarrassed the Hoops. Right, so I think we're going down that route. I quite like that idea. Which player, right, would you put in this jersey because it would fit them in terms not of the size, but the fact that it's an embarrassing jersey? There you go. Let us know in the comment section. We've all got it's a bit of fun. Come on, don't worry about it. Some players embarrass the hoops, right? Not the View were saying it back in 1987. Chris, I'll ask you, what player embarrassed the hoops for you?
God, I've seen that many. It's been quite a few, right? But the one that always got me, and listen, this is just a bit of fun, right? So nothing against the individual himself, but I was a season ticket holder at the time, and the window where we signed Willow Flood, I thought was just it was the worst signing I could imagine. I just thought, what are we doing? And listen, no, as I say, no disrespect or anything personal against Willow Flood, but I just thought that for me was rock bottom when it came to transfer windows.
The thing with that as well, it was disappointing in that we were in for Fletcher. That was the Fletcher transfer window, wasn't it? In
it was
January.
So underwhelming, and to be fair, I don't know if he necessarily got a fair shout, but he was a reasonable enough player domestically, but when he came to us, just.
Do you know which academy he came through? Can you remember which academy Willow Flood came through?
I heard this recently and I can't remember now.
Man City.
Man City.
So he actually played for Manchester City. I think the unfortunate thing about this jersey here, right, as well as that electric shock treatment that it's getting across the front of it, it's the same template as this top. It's the same template. The piping, the collar, everything's the same, right? And look how well it could have been done. This is what you might have won. Who used to watch Bullseye? This is what you could have won, right? There's the Nottingham Forest away kit. It could have looked something similar to that. And I think that looks a lot better. So anyway, listen, I'm not really selling this very well. Sorry, Adidas. However, it's not been that well received. I've seen a lot of kids at the games with the full kit. Fair play. Brilliant. The player that embarrassed the hoops, Chris has already had his say. He's given it to poor wee Willow. What about yourself, Patrick?
Oh, it's an easy choice for me. I think it's got to be Dirk Boerichter.
Did he ever get to wear it?
I remember watching Dirk Boerichter play football, believe me. It was about the time I became a season ticket holder back in 2014. I remember going to, you remember the Commonwealth Games? The Scottish Cup final was played at Celtic Park. So the semi-finals were at Ibrox and the final was at Celtic Park. It was just after Rangers had been liquidated, and we were running rampant in the league. We were going for 100 points, I think, Lennons last season, and we had the chance to basically win the treble. Well, until Morton knocked us out, won the Scottish Cup at Celtic Park in the final, and we drew Aberdeen in the February in the Scottish Cup, and I think we went 1-0 up, and Peter Pollitt scored in the second half. They won 2-1, and in the something like the 80th minute or something, Chris Commons, who was on about 30 goals that season, was substituted for Dirk Boerichter. And I thought, 13-year-old Patrick was thinking, what on earth is Neil Lennon thinking? So as you can imagine, I was delighted when he got the job again 5 years later.
He was rotten, Dirk Boerichter. He came from Ajax and then he retired when he left Celtic, and he blamed us.
Did he?
I blamed Celtic for his career hitting the blocks. Listen, I've seen some dross. I've seen some dross, right? And I was thinking that kind of era, and I was thinking Mo Bangura, but I've seen worse. And I actually got him to sign my programme. I'm sure we were playing St Johnstone that night. It was when there wasn't many people turning up. And the guy's name was Wayne Biggins, right? And he was signed by Lou Macari, another former Man City player, by the way, Chris. So Wayne Biggins, he was just absolutely rotten. He was a senior pro at Norwich when Chris Sutton was coming through as a young player, and he was kind of notorious. His nickname was Bertie Biggins, and he was horrendous, and we should never have been in the market for that type of player. Everybody that talks about Biggins always mentions Carol Muggleton, the goalie. I'm not having that. Muggleton just had a daft name. He wasn't a bad player. It was just his name and the era.
By association,
yeah, guilty by association. So I'm going to go for Bertie Biggins. We've got Dirk Boerichter and Chris. Who was your one again?
I've got another one actually, and I don't know if it counts.
Come on,
I don't know if it qualifies, but the worst player I've ever seen play in the hoops was Louis Tomlinson on Petrov's tribute game. I don't know if anyone the comments was at that game, but he took one. I think it was a Gabby Ablongahor. I can't even see his name. But I think he took a big challenge for Gabby, and that was him done for the game. And I took my at the time, I think my daughter, God, what age should have been, about 8 or 9 or something, and she was a huge Louis Tomlinson fan, so she was gutted. So she was the only one upset. The entire stand was laughing at that. So Louis Tomlinson, for me, the worst player I've ever seen in the hoops.
He's a kindred spirit, because when you're not a footballer and you're on that big, expansive Celtic, but anything can happen. You could pull muscles within 90 seconds.
I would have said you, but you weren't wearing hoops.
Yeah, I was the first time. And I've got the video to prove it. Right, so the embarrassed hoops, we're going back. It's a throwback Wednesday. We're going back to the Not a View days. Which player could wear that and not be embarrassed, because it's about the same level as them in terms of ability? Let us know by commenting on this video. Thumbs up and subscribe, and you could win the jersey. We're going to send it to you. And I don't know what's his name, Dirk Boerichter, listens to this show, but sorry, Dirk. I don't, because he slagged us off. He slagged us off when he left.
That's fair enough.
Before we go, Chris and I are going to be covering the game tonight. We'll be back 30 minutes before kickoff, and I'm going to be asking Chris for his prediction then. But before we go, Patrick, a wee prediction for tonight?
I'll go for 4-0. I don't think we'll quite get the 5 goals, because we are, weak up top. But we really should be beating this team. We're hitting a good bit of form with the Falkirk game, and they don't seem much better than Slovan, which we beat quite easily last season. So, massive favourites with the bookies. So I'll go, 4-0.
4-0. Right, you might see names like Douay coming into the equation as well.
Good suggestions.
I was just thinking of Gordon Strachan flops, Douay, Raphael Scheidt when Martin O'Neill was in charge. There's loads. Come on, bring them in. Patrick, you've got somebody
Tyler
else?
Blackett is right up there. I remember Tyler Blackett under Ronnie Dyla playing in those Mulder games. My goodness. Oh, man. Carlton Cole as well, Ronnie Dyla. Up there.
We've had a lot. We have had a lot of flops. The Embarrassing Hoops, please enter your competition details into the comments of this video. We'll be running it probably through until the weekend, and then we'll give the jersey away if anybody enters the competition. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Look at the ticker tape underneath. Acsom's going to Madrid. We're going to Madrid for the Madrid Emeralds 25th anniversary. I'm absolutely delighted. Obviously it's work. It's not a jolly, and I'll be over there with Charlie Mulgrew in Madrid. Tickets are on sale now. Thanks everybody for getting involved, and thank you to Chris McElwain and Patrick McGill for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.